Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. You know, most gamblers understand the concept of fading the public, right? Sometimes the public is just wrong, right? Sometimes the public is just way wrong. So given that you can't trust public opinion, you really have to think for yourself. You really have to do the math, do the homework, roll up your sleeves, and come to your own conclusion. Now let me say, I wish I would have done that with Leicester City. Not that I would have figured out that puzzle. Let me congratulate Leicester City on really the kind of once-in-a-lifetime delivery on 5,000 to 1 odds. The reason why people are able to win long shot bets is because the public takes teams for granted. The public will undervalue some teams or some boxers or some individuals and will get caught up in a public mania that overvalues favorites. So, segueing to basketball, just covering a bunch of bases here. I know a lot of people are panicking over Game 2 in that San Antonio Spurs Oklahoma City Thunder NBA series. Yes, the Thunder have taken home court advantage, right? I'm still rolling with the Spurs. In fact, I find the Spurs to be compelling value. I've been betting the Spurs since they were 5 to 1 on the futures, right? I think the Spurs are going to give the Golden State Warriors a run for their money in the next round of the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, I'll be safe. I have some money on the Warriors as well. But let's just say whatever the public does, in terms of the line changes that have taken place after Game 2 of the Spurs series against the Oklahoma City Thunder, I'm still rolling with the Spurs because to me, the math, the defensive numbers in particular, favor the San Antonio Spurs. Home court be damned. Right? Likewise, let's just talk about a typical mania. Right? A few months ago, last January, I can tell you that I was in Vegas. The Carolina Panthers had just beaten up the Seattle Seahawks, a turnover fest by Seattle in the first half of that game. Then they beat up the Arizona Cardinals, right? Carson Palmer had a hurt finger. It was a turnover fest in that game. They were about to play the Denver Broncos, and I can just tell you, the line was ridiculous to start with. Carolina was favored by several points. Then it got even more ridiculous, right? People wanted a part of MVP Cam Newton. Forget the fact that Carolina, right, barely beat Seattle earlier in the season in Seattle. Forget the fact that Cam Newton had to be Superman for them to beat the New York Giants, who didn't even make the playoffs, right? People wanted a part of Carolina. Meanwhile, you were looking at Denver and you thought, man, this defense looks legit. Von Miller, in my opinion, couldn't have played a better game than he played against New England. Not even the Super Bowl. New England, the game before the Super Bowl. You were looking at Denver and you had to ask the question, what if Denver doesn't have the turnovers of Seattle and Arizona? What if Luke Kuechly doesn't get an interception like he did against Seattle and Arizona? You know, I'll be blunt with you. I was expecting Carolina to lose the Seattle game. I was expecting Carolina to lose the Arizona game, right? I thought that the turnovers really were fluky, right? Well, needless to say, in the Super Bowl, if you rode with the dog, if you faded the public, right, you did well. Understand, Carolina went off at something like a 5.5 to 6 point favorite in that game. So, Let's bring that concept to boxing, because I know right now the press is excited, fans are excited, the public has strong beliefs, very strong beliefs, right? And promoters, of course, play on those beliefs. We're supposed to get hot and bothered, completely excited about the possibility of a Floyd Mayweather comeback. Now, let me say this, right? As longtime viewers here online know, I have the utmost respect for Floyd Mayweather. Right? Simply put, Mayweather is the best defensive fighter I've seen other than Pernell Whitaker, who history needs to remember. And Mayweather was better offensively than Pernell Whitaker. Right? I view Mayweather as the best of his generation. Years before the Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao fight, I was here online saying, if that fight happens, you want to roll with Floyd Mayweather. Right? Mayweather isn't a fastball pitcher. Right? He's not a guy living off of one trait. Right? Rather, Mayweather is a craftsman who's in the ring with many tools. Right? And he's deciding which tool to use as the fight goes along, right? He has concepts that he brings in the ring, but he himself is not completely sure of his game plan until he sees what you're doing, right? So Mayweather figures out straight right hand against Robert the Ghost Guerrero. Of course, against Ricky Hatton, it was the left hook. Right? Mayweather's kind of making mental notes. Mayweather starts the Zab Judah fight completely outclassed. Doesn't have the hand speed Zab Judah has. Gets dropped in the fight. Right? His glove hits the canvas off a punch. Right? Then turns it around. Cracks Judah's code. Right? Forget people hopping in the ring and all of that. Right? Mayweather figures it out. Right? Great fighter. But there is a fighter that this current version of Floyd Mayweather would lose badly to. I don't even think it's competitive. And that fighter is the Floyd Mayweather of several years ago who destroyed Arturo Gatti. Understand, as you look at films, as you hear all these people saying, oh, Floyd might come back, Floyd might come back. Right? As you look at films, you're going to realize that Floyd is now an older fighter in a young man's game. Right? He needs to take off parts of rounds. His legs aren't the same. He doesn't move as well. He spends more time than he used to up on the ropes. Right? He's slowing down. He looks like a guy who is aging. Now let me say, in my opinion, there's only one truly unbeaten champ who's had no close fights in the history of boxing. Right? No Castillo fights. No Leicester fights. Right? No draws like Ricardo Lopez had. Right? And that's Father Time. Understand, there are no professional boxers who were boxing 150 years ago. Right? You look at some guys and they seem to be defying time. Right? They're in their 40s, then suddenly, up, the floor drops out. The guy starts to get beaten. Right? The guy, runs out of gas. The guy slows down. Now, before Floyd took this long extended break, and it's been a year since Floyd fought Manny Pacquiao, hasn't it? Right? I came here online and I pointed out something obvious. Right? That the torch was being passed to a new generation. That Floyd would have some problems with some of the guys who are currently fighting. Right? Understand, that's just part of the human condition. You know who talked about the torch being passed to a new generation? President John F. Kennedy, right, in his inaugural address. So let me say this. Before Floyd left the sport, I thought style-wise, a younger, fresher lion with more hand speed, Amir Khan would give him all he could handle. Right? Understand, Floyd's foot speed is slowly coming down. Right? Guys like Amir Khan, guys like Kell Brook, another guy I think would give Floyd a hard time. Right? Guys like that are ascending. This is just the nature of things. Right? Eventually, the next generation inherits the game. So, I know Floyd's thinking about coming back. You know what? These comebacks are irrelevant unless you're going to take on the best out there. Right? No one wants to see Carl Froch come back to fight Porky Medina. Right? If Carl Froch were to come back, he'd have to fight guys like DeGale and Andre Ward. Right? He'd have to kind of tell us, look, the old standard tops the new standard. Or the old standard is still relevant because it's still championship level. Right? It's not enough. We don't allow people to come back and then say, hey, you know, I'm going to fight non-championship level fighters and then walk away from the sport again without fighting championship level. Well, let me say this. Right? I think the Mayweather comeback's a bad idea. Because I think there's a distinct possibility that fighters you haven't even thought of who, you know, are out there with big time talent levels might be able to beat an aging legend. Right? Certainly there are a lot of people out there who could beat, I'm sure, Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard today. At some point, age takes over. Right? Let me just say, I would take Amir Khan over Floyd Mayweather, and I'd get damn good odds, because we all know there's a huge group out there that's going to say Mayweather, they're going to buy the brand. They're going to buy TBE. Right? They're not going to look at the guy and say, you know what, maybe this version of Joe Louis can't beat Rocky Marciano. Right? I'd take Kell Brook against Mayweather. Kell Brook's legs, even post-machete, and I'll say I'm surprised by this, even post-machete, are so much better than Floyd Mayweather's legs right now. And understand the dynamic is different. Before, Floyd was the champ. In boxing, ties go to the champ. Right? If you're the opponent, you need to beat the champ to take his title, don't you? Right? Well, now Floyd comes back because of the age dynamic. I'm just telling you, there are a lot of young people out there who don't remember prime Floyd. Right? So if he steps in the ring with, let's say, a Kell Brook, there are going to be a lot of people, especially if that fight takes place in Sheffield or at the O2 Arena, someplace in the UK. There are going to be a lot of people who view Kell Brook as the champion. Floyd as the older fighter from a different generation, trying to prove that he can take out a young champion in his prime. Close rounds, I don't think Floyd would get the benefit of the doubt. Right? Because we're a demanding public, and we want to feel that you have to earn things. Right? Didn't Ali lose to Larry Holmes? So, put me among those who's a skeptic of a Floyd comeback. You know, I think we know we're a little bit past midnight on Manny Pacquiao. That the Pacquiao who gave a great performance against Timothy Bradley would lose to the Pacquiao who beat David Diaz years ago. Right? That Pacquiao, higher volume. Look at the CompuBox numbers. Relentless. Went for 12 rounds. Right? Hit hard. but had hand speed, more hand speed, had more foot speed than this version of Manny Pacquiao. Right? If Mayweather comes back, and if he signs on to fight Manny Pacquiao, don't get me wrong, it's a box office fight. It would be golden. It would capture public imagination. But it wouldn't be a fight between the very best at 147. Right? Now, would it? So as I've said, guys who know how to use length, who have hand speed, who can throw combinations, right, and who could move around the ring, foot speed is key, would give Floyd Mayweather a hard time. Right? I'll name three: Amir Khan, Kell Brook, and Victor Postal. Right? All three of those guys, in my opinion, are faster in terms of hand speed at this point in time on a consistent basis over 12 rounds than is Floyd Mayweather. They wouldn't have to wait on Mayweather. They have the kind of hand speed, and Floyd in his prime wasn't high volume. They have the kind of hand speed to make this really a volume fest. To come in and throw volume and move away before the older fighter can catch up with them. Right? I know to many people watching this video, that sounds nutty. Great. You know, all I'm saying is some of the best bets you'll make is when you walk in the casino and you see a better fighter, or a fighter who is closer to his prime, who somehow is an underdog, and they're giving you big odds because of the big name of his opponent. Right? I'll take my chances on those fights. Let's talk about another fight I'm taking a chance on here online. Look, I know to many of you I'm a Canelo hater. I'm not. Right? I can say I completely respect, and I mean this, Canelo's drive to be great. He's that rare fighter, right? That rare fighter who will step in the ring with Floyd Mayweather, who will step in the ring with Erislandy Lara, who will step in the ring with Miguel Cotto. Right? I would boldly say here, this is a guy who'll fight anybody, but we all sense a little bit of hesitation when it comes to fighting Gennady Golovkin. Okay, fair enough. But I will say this, Canelo is a man who steps in the ring on a regular, ongoing basis against high-quality opposition. Right? And when Canelo's in the ring, he's not running. He's not trying to win on gimmicks. Right? Even the close fights, he's in there valiantly trying to duke it out. Right? Think about the Erislandy Lara fight. Right? But while I know the public views this fight as a fight between bigger versus smaller, right? As I know the public is fixated on Amir Khan's car crashes, right? You would think the only two people Khan fought in his entire life were Breedis Prescott and Danny Garcia, right? As the public forgets the times where Canelo got shaken in fights, right? And Canelo has been shaken badly in a few fights, right? I again encourage people to look at the fight against Cotto's older brother, right? As folks overlook that part of Canelo, as folks overlook the photos, where when you see Canelo looking at Amir Khan, if you didn't know who the guys were, if you didn't know the weight histories of the individuals, you'd be unable in those photos to spot the guy who the public believes is the smaller guy, right? In fact, Amir Khan looks taller than Saul Alvarez, doesn't he? right? Amir Khan has said he's cutting weight to make weight in this fight. Somehow, Amir Khan, who has gotten belts at 147, is supposed to be completely out of his league because this fight is being fought at 1 pound above the weight class that's north of 147. In other words, I don't even, it's as if Amir Khan said, hey, I'm just moving up one weight class. That'd be unremarkable. But the promoters have sold the public on this 1 extra pound, so we're supposed to think, oh man, Amir Khan's fighting a middleweight. This is while at the same time we're supposed to think Canelo can't fight Golovkin because he's not a middleweight. Right? I'm just telling you, sometimes the public doesn't make sense. Well, close your eyes for a second. Indulge me. Who has the better foot speed between Khan and Canelo? Next question. Who has the better hand speed between Khan and Canelo? Right? If the answer's the same guy, if you then say to yourself, well, you know what? If that guy can marry his movement to a jab, right, and throw volume, why shouldn't Amir Khan win every slow round in this fight? And by slow rounds, I'm talking about rounds where there isn't a knockdown, right? I'll concede in boxing, you can land one punch in the round and win the round, right? If the other guy hits the canvas, then he gets up, he's staggering around the ring, then they let it continue and he's holding you, even I'll concede, look, you've won the round, right? But if it's a slow round, where nobody hits the canvas, by the way, side note, has anyone figured out that Amir Khan has gone 12 rounds against championship level fighters, people like Devin Alexander, and has not hit the canvas? That Amir Khan has had fights against guys with punches and has not hit the canvas. In fact, the last time I checked, I believe, even though he did hit the canvas in this fight, I believe Amir Khan somehow went 12 rounds with Marcus Maidana. And can we agree Marcus Maidana is a guy who knows how to punch? Right? So if you believe, let me also focus on Maidana for a second. Maybe I'm crazy, but I view Maidana as having more foot speed than Canelo. Right? So what that tells you is Amir Khan has already beaten a guy with a punch with more foot speed than Canelo. Think about it. Right? So, I'll just say this. Watch Khan's jab. If he's able to win points from distance, if he's able to bring a punch in the ring that keeps Canelo busy and that prevents Canelo from bridging the gap, getting close enough to hurt him, right? If he's popping the jab and he's able to work in reverse, like James DeGale just did against Porky Medina. I know the press is ripping DeGale. I understand someone had Medina winning the fight, whatever, right? Boxing Scene had Medina winning the fight. Look, if Amir Khan's able to work volume while backing up, while moving around laterally, and if he's able to come in on counters, who among us believes that Saul Alvarez is defensively blessed? When you watch a Saul Alvarez fight, are you thinking Pernell Whitaker or Floyd Mayweather? Or are you thinking a slugger who can actually get touched? Right? My point to you is, please, don't fade Amir Khan's chances here. There's a distinct possibility that this fight turns out like the Super Bowl, where you're watching the Super Bowl early and then you're saying, you know what? this underdog team, Denver, their defense seems to be at least as good as Carolina's. You're watching the game and you're thinking to yourself, whoa, I can't tell who the favorite was. And it's midway through the second quarter. Right? You see Cam Newton under siege and you're thinking, man, Cam can't get his passes off. Maybe all the people who thought he was going to come out here and just dominate, maybe they were wrong. Right? Understand, unless Canelo is able to bridge the gap, this could look like Ali against Sonny Liston. The first fight. How close was that fight? Right? This could look like a big slugger who's stationary. Right? Trying to catch up with the guy who knows to throw volume from distance. Let me say this too. Unlike Austin Trout, Amir Khan also knows to go to the body, doesn't he? Right? Let me say this too. As Canelo's going to try to get inside, understand these jabs hurt. Right? Guys can get an eye closed on the jab. You've seen guys get busted up with the good stiff jab. Right? I'm just telling you that maybe the narrative on this fight is wrong. Maybe Amir Khan's going to come in the ring as a legitimate middleweight. Right? Or as a legitimate 155 pounder. We don't even have to get to 160. Right? Maybe his hand speed, maybe his foot speed are going to give him such a distinct advantage. That is, I suspect, Canelo's only chance to win the fight. And this guy has been historically a judge's favorite. Right? Maybe Canelo's only chance of winning the fight is to land a knockout punch. Something he didn't do against Austin Trout. Something he did not do against Miguel Cotto. Right? So, all I can say is I'm fading the public on this, just like I'll be fading the public on Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter. Same type thing. Right? I think Porter moves too well and is too sudden. Right? I'll be the jackass in the sports book taking the underdog. Right? If you're betting on favorites, hey, I'll be the guy making the market happen by actually being on the other side of the play. Right? I know people love flat-footed fighters these days. Right? I see all the love Anthony Joshua's getting. Okay, great. Right? Just understand that boxing goes through cycles. Guys who can get up on the balls of their feet, who have mobile games, and can marry it with hand speed and volume and a good jab to keep you honest, to keep that opponent frozen. Right? Those guys can do a lot of damage. I'm telling you, in the 1970s, heavyweights would get up on their toes. Right? Larry Holmes even gets up on his toes against Ernie Shavers in the fight where he gets dropped and gets off the canvas. Understand, Amir Khan might be the person winning so many rounds that he might be able to get off the canvas and still win this fight. Isn't that what he did against Marcus Maidana? Right? So, I think the Khan-Canelo fight is mispriced. I think Canelo has had many close fights. Right? That Erislandy Lara fight could have gone the other way. The Austin Trout fight could have gone the other way. Right? I'm telling you, there are people out there, Nacho Beristain's one of them, who believes the Miguel Cotto fight could have gone the other way. Right? If you're one of these people who believes that everyone who criticizes Canelo is a hater, maybe you're not noticing the number of punches landed by Austin Trout as reflected in CompuBox. Right? Maybe you're not noticing that when Canelo went to the body on Miguel Cotto, Cotto many times was bent over and had a hand up. Right? Anticipated the punch, blocked the punch. Right? Maybe you're not noticing that while Lara didn't stay in the pocket enough, right, Canelo wasn't able to get out of the pocket enough to hunt him down. Right? So, I'm fading the public on Canelo. I already have a video up here. By the way, my Super Bowl videos here online. You can check that out, what I said in multiple videos before that game took place. Right? You know, the public, all I can say is, hey, the public's right many times. I'm not saying the public's always wrong. But let's face it. Right? At one point, you know, the Democratic Party almost nominated John Edwards. In fact, did nominate John Edwards as its vice presidential candidate. Think about it. Right? Sometimes we support the wrong horse. It happens. Right? Amir Khan has a foot speed advantage, has a hand speed advantage, is offensively blessed, has size, might be actually more at home at 155 than he is at 147. Right? One of the secrets to Amir Khan recovering from Breeders' Prescott is he actually started gaining weight after that. Right? He's fighting Canelo. I know Canelo has a huge punch. I'm not here to say otherwise. But Canelo with a huge punch has been forced to go 12 rounds by people like Shane Mosley. Look up that fight. Right? He doesn't knock everyone out, folks. You know, Floyd looked pretty lucid, looked pretty together at the end of his fight against Canelo. Right? He wasn't slurring words at the press conference. He wasn't holding on to Canelo at the end of that fight. Right? Take a look at those fights. I think Amir Khan is a live underdog. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you on any of the topics I've touched upon. Right? The San Antonio Spurs in the NFL, in the NBA. The NFL, if you want to talk about that. Floyd Mayweather's comeback. And how he would fare against guys with hand speed, movement, who could operate from length. Right? As I've said, I personally feel Floyd would have all he could handle against Amir Khan, Kell Brook, or Victor Postal. Right? All he could handle. Right? Let me say, too, even if it's a slower motion fight, right, I think Floyd would have a big problem with Terence Crawford. It'd be a different fight than it would be against the other guys. Right? The other guys would be able to come out and just say, hey, look, you can't drive faster than 55 at this age. Let's make this, you know, a speedway contest. I'm going to put my car in 75 and see if you can compete. Beat me to the finish line. With Terence Crawford, it'd be angles. It'd be boxing at its best. Right? Now, while it's hard to outthink Floyd, right, Terence Crawford has a southpaw dynamic to his game. Right? And he knows how to use it. Right? Let's just say, I believe in the all-time greats. Floyd from 7 years ago, wow. That would, you know, great fighter. Right? But I also believe in expiration dates. I'm not drinking the milk in my fridge. Right? 1 month after the expiration date. Right? Boxing fans need to pay attention to a fighter's prime and fighters who are very talented, but who are fighting past their prime. Look, I love Bernard Hopkins. I'd take the Bernard Hopkins of 15 years ago over this Bernard Hopkins. Right? Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.